Doing Good Better by William MacAskill. Effective altruism and a radical new way to make a difference. Introduction. Worms and water pumps. What can you do the most good? Until 1989, Trevor Field was a typical middle-aged South African man who had lived a fairly normal life. He enjoyed fresh steaks, cold beer, and fishing with his friends. Working in advertising for magazines like Top Car and Penthouse, he had never thought seriously about using his skills for the greater good. When he discovered the PlayPump, however, everything changed. That year, Field and his father-in-law, a farmer, visited an agricultural fair in Pretoria. There he met a water engineer named Ronnie Stuyver, who was demonstrating a model for a new type of water pump. The demonstration reminded Field of a fishing trip he had taken years before, during which he had watched the women of a rural village wait for hours next to a windmill-powered water pump. There had been no wind that day, but the women who had trekked for miles still needed to bring water back to their homes, so they simply sat and waited for the water to flow. Field had been struck by how unfair this was. There simply must be a better way to do this, he had thought. Now he was witnessing a potential solution. Stuyver's invention seemed brilliant. Instead of the typical village hand pump or windmill pump found in many poor countries, Stuyver's doubled as a children's roundabout, which as it spun would pump clean water from deep underground up to a storage tank. No longer would the women of the village need to walk miles to draw water using a hand pump or wait in line next to a windmill on a still day. The PlayPump, as it was called, utilized the power of children at play to provide a sustainable water supply for the community. African girls have almost nothing, not even books in school, let alone playground equipment, and access to water is a huge problem. Field later told me, "I thought it was just the best idea I've ever seen." Field bought the patent from Stuyver and worked in his spare time over the next 5 years to improve the design. His experience in advertising gave Field the idea of using the sides of the water tank as billboards that would generate revenue to pay for pump's maintenance. In 1995, he secured his first sponsor, Colgate-Palmolive, installed the first play pump, and quit his job in order to focus full-time on the project, which by then was a registered charity called PlayPumps International. Progress was slow at first, but he persevered, funding several pumps with his own money while developing connections with corporations and government bodies across South Africa to provide more. By the turn of the millennium, he had installed 50 pumps across the country. His first major breakthrough came in 2000, when he bet 3,000 other applicants to win a World Bank Development Marketplace Award given to innovative early-stage development projects that are scalable and or replicable, while also having high potential for development impact. That award attracted funding and attention, which culminated in a site visit from Steve Case, CEO of Internet Service Provider AOL, and his wife John. They thought the PlayPump was incredible, Field said. As soon as they saw it in action, they were sold. In 2005, the Cases agreed to fund the project and worked with Field to set up an American arm of PlayPumps International. Their aim was to roll out thousands of new PlayPumps across Africa. The PlayPump became the center of a massive marketing campaign. Steve Case used his internet expertise to pioneer new forms of online fundraising. The One Foundation, a British fundraising charity, launched a bottled water brand called One Water and donated the profits to PlayPumps International. It was a huge success and became the official bottled water of the Live Aid concerts and the Make Poverty History campaign. The PlayPump became the darling of the international media, who leapt at the opportunity to come up with punning headlines like "Pumping water is child's play" and "The magic roundabout." In an article for Time magazine in 2006, Bill Clinton called the PlayPump a wonderful innovation. Celebrities too jumped on the bandwagon. Rapper Jay-Z raised tens of thousands of dollars through his Water for Life concert tour in 2006. Soon after, PlayPumps International secured its biggest win, a $16.4 million grant awarded by then First Lady Laura Bush, launching a campaign designed to raise $60 million to fund 4,000 PlayPumps across Africa by 2010. By 2007, the PlayPump was the hottest thing in international development, and Trevor Field was at the center of it all, a rock star of the charity world. It has just gone berserk. When I first looked at this water pump, I could never imagine that this was something that could possibly change the world, Field said in 2008. Reflecting on PlayPump International's startling success, it really rocks me to know we are making a difference to a lot of people who are nowhere near as privileged as I am or my family is. By 2009, his charity had installed 1,800 PlayPumps across South Africa, Mozambique, Swaziland, and Zambia. Then things went so. 2 damning reports were released, one by UNICEF and one by the Swiss Resource Center and the Consultancies for Development, SKAT. It turned out that despite the hype and the award and the millions of dollars spent, no one had really considered the practicalities of the PlayPump. Most playground roundabouts spin freely once they have gained sufficient momentum. That's what makes them fun. But in order to pump water, PlayPumps need constant force, and children playing on them would quickly become exhausted. According to the UNICEF report, children sometimes fell off and broke limbs, and the spinning motion made some of them vomit. In one village, local children were paid to play on the pump. Much of the time, women of the village ended up pushing the roundabout themselves, a task they found tiring, undignified, and demeaning. What's more, no one had asked the local communities if they wanted a PlayPump in the first place. When the investigators from SKAT asked the community what they thought about the new PlayPump, many said they preferred the hand pump that was previously installed. With less efforts, a Zimbabwe bush hand pump of the same cylinder size as a PlayPump provided 1,300 liters of water per hour, 5 times the amount of PlayPump. A woman in Mozambique said, "From 5 a.m., we are in the fields working for 6 hours. Then we come to this pump and have to turn it. From this, your arm starts to hurt. The old hand pump was much easier." One reporter estimated that in order to provide a typical village water need, the roundabout would have to spin for 27 hours per day. Even when communities welcomed the pump, they didn't do so for long. The pumps often broke down within months, but unlike the Zimbabwe bush pump, the mechanism was encased in a metal shell and could not be repaired by the community. The locals were supposed to be given a phone number to call for maintenance, but most communities never received one, and calls from those who did were rarely answered. The billboards on the storage tanks lay bare. The rural communities were too poor for companies to be interested in paying for advertising. The PlayPump was inferior in almost every way to the unsexy but functional hand pumps it competed with. Yet, at $14,000 per unit, it cost 4 times as much. Soon the media turned on its golden child. PBS ran a documentary exposing the PlayPump's many shortcomings. One thing that didn't change was the media's love of pumps. The documentary was called Troubled Water. The Guardian repeatedly referred to the PlayPump as money down the drain. In an admirable response to this criticism, the U.S. arm of PlayPumps International shut down, and its sponsor, the Case Foundation, publicly acknowledged that the program had been a failure. Yet, despite its fall from grace, the PlayPumps live on. Under the name Roundabout Water Solution, Field's non-profit organization continues to install the same model of PlayPumps across South Africa, with backing from corporations including Ford Motor Companies and Colgate Palmolive.